Hi, I'm Lauren Sonnenberg with LifeCore, and good afternoon. Welcome to this week's edition of Mind Body Talk on chronic pain. So today's topic is on why there's no blame in a mind-body approach to chronic pain. So why is that important? Well, there are a lot of people who, when faced with this concept of the mind-body connection and whether or not emotions can play a role in physical symptoms such as pain showing up, some people's red flags go up and they say, does that mean that I'm to be blamed for my pain because I don't have a handle on my emotions? And the short answer to that is no. The long answer is no, but we'll explain why it is a no. So when we're talking about the conceptualization of where pain comes from and why it persists chronically, and we're looking at this mind-body medicine, what I have found is there's generally 4 camps of people. There are some who say, and if you're camp number 1, go ahead, say hello in the comments, and just put a number 1 if this applies to you. It doesn't matter if you know the science of mind-body medicine or not. A person can have this notion where they say, oh, wow, I know that there's an emotional connection to my pain. Maybe I don't know why, but I know there is. So if that applies to you, go ahead and place a 1 in the comments below. Now, the second camp would be people who are very open to the whole, I get there's an emotional connection there, but they don't know what it might be. So they're open, but they don't know. And go ahead and put a 2 in the comments below if that applies to you. Now we have 2 more camps. So the next one is 3. And that's where people are looking at the concept, well, okay, maybe there's this emotional connection, but Lauren, does that mean that I'm to be blamed for my pain? And that gets in the way of people moving forward with techniques, approaches, and mindsets that could really free them from their chronic pain. So go ahead, and if that applies to you, that's who we're really talking to today. Go ahead and put a number 3 there, and I'm glad you're here and open to learning more about this. And number 4, the 4th camp probably won't be here because those people are not yet ready for the mind-body concept at all. Maybe because there's way too much of a barrier because they think there's that blame connection, or just because they haven't been exposed to anything or anybody who's had success through a mind-body approach to treating chronic pain. So everybody is welcome. If you're a 4, great, put it in there. If you used to be a 4 and now you're a 3, 2, or 1, go ahead and put that in there too. So it's good for people who were skeptics and who are no longer skeptics to share that information with people who still may be sitting more on the fence, because that liberates people who are really looking for solutions, who want to feel better and aren't sure where, how, what path to take. And so it's really scary for a lot of people to try a new approach, especially when they've tried so many approaches over the years, especially if they've been dealing with chronic pain for a number of years, decades. And it's tiresome for people to try something new, get the courage up, get the money, get the time, get in the car, try something new, and then to have it not work. That's not fun. It's more than not fun. It's demoralizing. It's just very difficult. So we want to open the doors to mind-body medicine and this understanding about the emotional connection to pain and to other diseases for that matter. But today we're focusing, of course, on chronic pain. So I'm going to start with 2 analogies. One is very simple. You have a couple cups of coffee. A little bit later, your bladder says, hello, time to go to the restroom. And nobody says, let's blame the coffee or let's blame the bladder function on why I have to go to the bathroom. It's like, okay, it's a normal biological function. That's what the body does. It lets you know, hey, it's time to go to the ladies' room or the men's room. Okay. And we don't think twice about it. You just go and do it. And I bring that first analogy up to say, when we have a biological function in place as a reaction to a bioemotional conflict, which I've spoken about in other presentations and episodes on Mind Body Talk and in some blog posts. So it'll be helpful if you're like wondering, what is she talking about, to go and refer to those as well, and just to keep staying tuned, because the more you hear this, the more you'll get it. Don't think, oh, I'm just going to absorb it all in one 20-minute session here, because it's a lot to take in. But when there's a bioemotional conflict, let me give you an example. Now, we're not talking about pain related to this one, but this is a perfect bioemotional conflict because you can hear both parts of it. Territorial anger. That's a German new medicine term. You can hear and you can see, even out in nature, animals will get angry if there's another animal trying to take over their territory. So it biologically serves a function, and you can see there's an emotion involved. Same applies to human beings. We might not always be talking about that conflict. We might be talking about other ones. But when you see there's a science and then there's a biological function for that response, like so many times we see, and I've talked about this before, when we're talking about self-devaluation conflicts, which are not the only ones related to pain, but that's a common one. We see cell breakdown in the area involved in the body where before the pain comes about. Cell breakdown in response to the self-devaluation conflict. And then when we're healing, when we're starting to resolve that conflict on an emotional level, we start to see the pain. We see the presence of the swelling, the inflammation, and the pain is part of that process as the body's re-strengthening and regrowing the cells in that area. So there's a function. There is a function for all that's going on, and there's a reason for that pain happening. So that links back to the bathroom analogy, believe it or not, because we're talking about function. If a function exists of the body, a biological function, how could there be blame? Why would you blame the mind or body for doing what it's supposed to do? Okay. The second one probably takes it a little deeper. If a person has childhood trauma, okay, I'm a psychotherapist, somebody comes into my office, I'm not blaming them for what happened to them in their childhood. Of course, we're not going to. And so the key piece there, hi, Michelle, thanks for watching. And the key piece there is we're not blaming people for what happened to them earlier on in life, but they know as adults, and we all know, that one has to then take responsibility, even though it's a really horrible thing that happened, but the conflicts that happened to us were not to be blamed for, but yet we have the responsibility for our mind and body wellness to do something with them. And so there's a big difference there between blaming someone for having had something happen to them versus saying, okay, it happened, I had this biological response, an emotional response, but now I'm responsible for doing something with that. So absolutely no blame, but full-on responsibility. And that can be scary, but it can also be liberating. It can bring people a lot of freedom because, one, they see that maybe sometimes for the first time in their lives, there may be a way for me to deal with this chronic pain now that I understand what's happening for me. I can track this. I can work with somebody. I can see, what conflicts are still active, which conflicts are in resolution but keep on getting reactivated. How am I responding to the pain itself? Does that become its own new conflict for me and keeping me stuck here? And certainly if any of this is applying to you, even if you're seeing the replay of this, put some comments below, share what's been going on for you. If you are thinking, yeah, I don't quite understand that, or yes, Lauren, this is what's happening to me. I think this conflict or this emotional challenge has been playing a role in my chronic pain, then feel free to share that with us to the extent that you feel comfortable. So with this taking responsibility versus this no blame approach, there is no blame in chronic pain. Just like there's no blame in other diseases that people face. There's also opportunity, freedom and opportunity and hope. Because when we know that there are causative factors and there are factors that are keeping it going and perpetuating, now we know what to look for. Now we can use different tools to work through what's presenting itself. There are practical solutions sometimes to emotional conflicts. There's just sometimes being aware that the pain itself, in certain cases, is actually a healing sign. In other cases, it's a sign of a conflict that's active. And either way, we work on resolving the conflicts. German New Medicine would have you resolve them from a very practical standpoint. I find as a psychotherapist, some things you just can't resolve on a practical level, or even if you could, people aren't ready to take that step because it may be too big. What if a person has a conflict where they're just really having a rough time at work and they're saying, I wonder if that's the emotional conflict that's related to my pain, or at least part of it. But they feel like there's no way they could get rid of that job because then they'd have no money. Then they'd have a new conflict and they'd, not have enough money. That's, known as a starvation conflict, even if it's not a literal starvation. So we don't want to end one conflict just to turn on another. So in my practice, I use EFT, which is the emotional freedom techniques, emotional acupressure, also known as tapping. So I've spoken about that a little bit before. In one of our episodes coming up, I'll do a demo. I promise to do a demo really soon for you on that and show you the points, show you how we do some of that. It's very in-depth. There's no way I can give you a tapping script that's going to be helpful for you because it has to be geared specifically for what emotional conflicts you're facing and your mindsets, any limiting beliefs, and a bunch of other things I've spoken about before. But I can at least show you the general how EFT works, because that's one of the tools that once you feel empowered, you feel there's freedom and opportunity here because you're no longer blaming yourself. You're not thinking there's blame involved in this because there isn't. You see, my body's having a bioemotional response, and there's something I can do about it. Well, that's empowering because a lot of people dealing with chronic pain don't feel that power. They feel, I've heard them explain it to me, they feel victimized from their pain or a victim of their pain. They feel kind of at wit's end. They feel like they've lost hope. So like quality of life goes down. There are variations on those themes that are not quite as intense as that, but a lot of times it's that bad. So what we want to do as people in the medical and mental health professions is empower people to know that there is a way to pain relief, pain reduction, and in many cases, pain elimination. So thank you so much for joining me here today. I appreciate your time, and feel free to drop some comments below. And if continuing this conversation and sharing your story is something that you'd like to do, feel free to join us in my free Facebook group on chronic pain, mind-body empowerment. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.